Let me tell you what's worrisome, Alice Shattuck.
What's worrisome?
Welcome to Vermont, by the way.
Thank you. I like it here.
Have you arranged for anybody to feed our chickens?
Well, I'm going to be back in like 2 days. So
Okay. How about water? Anything?
Yeah, I filled up everything with lots of water, and they're going to be all set.
Can they drink it if it's in the form of ice?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Could have fooled them. Okay. So here is a bad sign.
Okay.
I apologize for the cacophony. It just had to be. 86. Oh, Jesus Christ. Here's why this is a bad sign.
I would like to start telling people to call into your radio station when we're doing our show.
This is. That is a video on Twitter.
Okay.
It's been around for a while. It is captioned, breaking. Russian TIE fighter downed just outside Kiev. And it's a picture of a car driving down a road from the windshield.
Okay.
And it shows, what does it show?
TIE fighter.
Exactly. And in front of the TIE fighter?
A car and snow and
Let me make it.
a road.
Let me ask you. Tell me what's in front of the TIE fighter.
Of something burning in front of it?
Okay. Anybody standing there?
Oh, a stormtrooper.
Exactly.
A stormtrooper. Okay. Yes.
The problem with the world, it's obviously a CGI thing or whatever. With that shows a TIE fighter. It's obviously been shot down. Stormtrooper kind of just demoralized. One leaning against it, another one. Here's the problem.
Mm-hmm.
Cato the Younger, who's got a lot of followers, says, serious question. How do you know it's Russian? Somebody should be able to clarify markings. Not that I'm skeptical of social media posts.
Are they joking?
No. Here's somebody
Are you
says.
sure?
Somebody says it's the orange flame. That is clearly a Russian reactor core, which is somebody joking. Somebody says, does anybody really believe if they have a downed helicopter, they're going to put out a freaking orange cone? Because
They think it's a helicopter?
Right, exactly. Another person saying, some people get it, obviously. Another person says, looks like Star Wars stormtroopers next to the downed fighter. I think this is a fake. To which somebody replied, what was your first clue? So here's somebody else. A woman named Amberly says, why is there stormtroopers waiting by it? She used her intellect
yes.
to discern that, wait a second, yeah, fine, it's a war piece of machinery, but wait a second, it doesn't make sense. There's stormtroopers waiting for it. Waiting next to what is most obviously a TIE fighter. Somebody says, who else would you expect to be guarding it? It was joking with her. Somebody says, I find it so weird in some there's snow and some there's no snow. Can anyone explain this to me? Somebody has screenshotted it with the picture of the stormtrooper saying, yeah, I always see stormtroopers crashing on the highway. It happens all the time around here. Thinking they're onto something.
Well, has CNN fact-checked it yet?
Somebody else says,
that's when we'll really know that it's...
Somebody else says, why does it look like a Star Wars stormtrooper is leaning on it? Leaning on the TIE fighter. So, that's not great. It's not great that we're... To me, you know what this means? That we're actively getting stupider. But thinking we're smarter. A lot of these people think they're dunking on somebody.
Well, those people probably all took the class that Brian Stelter went and visited, that we played the CNN clip of the teacher teaching the students how to carefully discern misinformation on the internet. And they probably think they're very clever for noticing the telltale sign that there's a stormtrooper in the frame. But I'm also reminded, too, of... I think it was Adam Carolla who was doing an interview, and like he was saying that women or girls don't know as much about history. And he's like, people always challenge me on this. They always challenge me on this. And like some chick called up to the interview and was like, that's not true. Like girls know about history. And he said, can you name 2 types of planes that were used in World War II?
Huh. Interesting.
And she didn't know any. And I don't know that I could either. And I know a lot of history stuff, but not like that. And I do think it's interesting because I think that history that's taught in school has really veered away from a lot of the specifics of any war stuff. I think it's in general a sign of sort of the feminization of school in general, because that's obviously something that boys would find interesting in history class.
Oh, totally.
Stuff about planes and battles and like, but we specifically, I mean, I never literally in all my, and I took all the AP history classes, everything, like, and I got 5s on all the AP exams and, but I didn't like do all the like history reading about planes in my free time. And I think like every dad in the world spends half his life watching World War II documentaries on TV. But
by the way, I too got all 5s on the AP exams.
Let's see, U.S. history, world history, and European history. I got
all
5s on. Yeah. So, and that's just the history ones.
You must have been in a popular crowd, Alice. My goodness.
Me started.
My goodness.
So
I get the feeling we spent a lot of time alone.
But anyway, long story short, but none of those classes, they all specifically had it as a thing that we like learn about that the battle happened, and we learn about like what the consequences of the battle were. Like, oh, this meant that this was the battle that meant that Hitler now controlled this area, blah, blah, blah. Like,
right.
This is the battle. Gettysburg is important because X, Y, Z. These were the generals that led it. But we specifically did no battle tactics of any battle. I mean, like in general, like World War I, trench warfare, World War II, blitzkrieg, like, like sort of generic stuff. But specifically, it was like part of the thing, like, we're not going to do this. We're not going to do any battle tactics. There's not going to be any Pickett's charge. There's not going to be any, like, of this stuff in our, like, we're not going to go through the blow-by-blows of the battle.
Well, isn't it in a sense, elites having to teach shop class? They're like, ugh, I'm not talking about the
No, I think that's
Tiger
absolutely
tanks.
true. I think that's absolutely true. And I mean, like, we would learn general stuff, but it was very much not battle tactics. And I think that that's part of a whole thing where, that's exactly the stuff that interests boys in school, but it's exactly the sort of thing that girls find boring and can't wrap their minds around. And like, therefore, that's, one of the many thousands of reasons why girls now do better in school than boys do. And yet, in a lot of ways, boys know more stuff about stuff. Still, because they have totally different skill sets. I mean, like you mentioned, shop class, that doesn't even rate to be at most high schools anymore that I know of. And that's exactly the type of thing where that's like a thing a guy would do and not a girl. Not that I think we should like exclude women from shop class if they want to take it. But I think that we've made it so that education is only stuff girls care about. And I think there's a lot of stuff in the world that's stuff that guys care about that we've decided collectively like doesn't matter anymore. Which is, I mean, like why our militaries run the way it is and everything else. Like, the girls got just as good grades in school. They scored just as high on all the aptitude tests and this and that. And like, but they're not doing the stuff that we need the army to actually do. They don't know the things that we need the military to be into. I think it's a symptom of a broader problem. And I think that's part of why so many people can look at a TIE fighter and not realize that that's not real military equipment. Because I think that any understanding of actual war, actual military tactics has been like completely scrubbed from our entire education system. So like, of course those kids all think they're smart. They got all good grades in school on all the history tests, but they literally can't tell a TIE fighter from like any other military aircraft.
I also think that there's something to the idea that the exuberance that you're to feel now for anything Russian being shot down just clouds your judgment. Oh, awesome. A Russian thing was shot down. Awesome. Zelensky and Ukraine fighters. Awesome, guys. Way to hold them. Way to take a stand against them. Awesome. Good. And then that's the only reason you're so enamored with the idea that something was shot down that you're like, wait, why is there a stormtrooper? I really want to believe this so I can comment on this.
Right.
Rah, because this is the thing now. This is the thing we all do. This is the new Black Lives Matter avatar. Is that we're all Ukrainian now. I stand with Ukraine. Did you know that?
Yeah, did you see the meme that's the guy from the Pawn Stars thing where it says at the top, what are you going to do to help us, save our country? And the guy's saying, best I could do is put your flag in my profile.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, putting a flag in your profile is cheap. There's not much they're going to do to help out. None of these people who's all pro-Ukrainian is going to go fly to Ukraine and fight Russians. It's very easy from the safety of your home to be all into the Ukrainians fighting the Russians.
I feel like you're missing the point of the conflict, Alice, and I'm going to tell you what it really is that you're missing here.
Okay.
For one woman in Kyiv, the Russian invasion is a war
Sometimes
within a war.
We think it's just all a dream, that we stuck inside some kind of a video game, because you just you live in a quiet society, and then you hear bombings, and then you wake up to the sound of bombings. I don't want to go outside. I'm literally scared for my life.
This is Z Familio, who's transgender. This is
all my friends left the city.
So Z Familio, transgender acceptance in Ukraine is not widespread, and changing legal documents to match gender requires a long process with psychiatric examinations. CBS News spoke with one woman in Kyiv who is now battling a war within a war amid Russia's invasion.
My neighbors left my floor and I think my building.
She fears what could happen if she tries to leave, says the man.
I know. The scary Russian troops might use the wrong pronouns.
Well, I mean, the thing is that we're supposed to see. You see, when we were telling you that they're killing trans people everywhere, you see, this is going to happen to this guy who really should be shutting and grab a rifle.
No kidding.
But no, he's so westernized that he found to be, I can be a super victim now. Oh, this is the greatest thing in the world. Not only am I trans, where every day the chances of me getting murdered are 96%, but now the Russians are coming, are famously anti-trans, to kill me. The TIE fighter shot down tweet is worth more than this. This story of this person.
What would possibly make people think that should be anyone's concern at this moment in time about Ukraine is
CBS
trans
News.
rights? What? I mean, I'm just curious, the producer on that. There's people really dying over there.
Right. Well, I mean, the thing is, though, in the CBS newsroom, with the web producers and web editors and the producers, etc., who's going to stop this person who says, yeah, I would really like to do an expose on how the conditions for trans people who feel like they're battling... How do we even
find a trans person in Ukraine right now?
They're battling... I get the feeling this person has a big social media presence. But who's going to stop that person who says, yeah, I want to do a piece on a trans person who's battling a war within a war because he's trans and he's got to be hiding from the Russians and he can speak English, because I've seen the 100,000 TikToks, and be willing to do it. What editor, over 30 now is going to say, shut up, grow up, you idiot. Stop commenting on the TIE fighter.
I would think any of the editors and people who, were back, covering Iraq and Afghanistan, who were there, with the troops in those battles and stuff, would say, that's not what war is about.
Well, if this were 2003... the editor would first say, why are you calling the guy a she? Why do you keep referring to him as she? It's a boy, right? Yeah, well, then just call him it's a man. So it's a drag person in drag is what it is. And then the editor, if he was had any self-respect, would then take the reporter and throw them out of the balcony from the 15th floor until they died, because that's the right thing to do. When somebody has a stupid idea of a war within a war,
Yeah.
Once again, managing to LARP during a real war.
I know. That's what I'm saying. It's like you don't need another war within the war because it's time for the imaginary wars to go away now because there's an actual war happening. So it's time for the play pretend wars and the play pretend civil rights crisis and all the other stuff to go away. Just like, you know, it's time, like Putin actually kills journalists, which is like what makes it pathetic when our journalists in the United States are like, oh, Trump called us liars. And like, Putin's like having people killed, okay? That's like what we're talking about when we say like there's not press freedom in Russia. It's not like Putin doesn't call people like mean, right? That's remember when Christina Pusha tweeted an AP story and said drag them on Twitter, and the AP was like, this is an attack on our free press in the country.
Right.
It's just, but there's like actual stuff happening out there. And I mean, like, I know the left is crazy and they think that their stuff is real because they're playing stupid games in their mind about, you know,
can I get back to my war within a war friend?
all the things. Hang on.
This is not a very rainbow-friendly place. So lives for trans people are very bleak here.
Isn't a 40-mile long column of Russian war machines storming into Kyiv?
Yeah, I think it's pretty bleak for everybody at
Jesus.
the moment.
But it's bleak for me, too. But I'm more of a victim than this. Oh, my God. This person sucks. This dude sucks and needs to be carrying a damn... You want to be a cool trans person? Use your naturally much bigger muscles than real girls and grab a frigging rifle.
No, they don't want to. They don't want to compete with women like in real stuff like fighting wars. They only want to compete with them in swimming competitions and stuff where it doesn't really matter and nobody gets hurt.
It's amazing. Amazing. And that's
and that's after I thought, and we didn't even get to this yesterday, but I thought the absolute worst Ukraine take was yesterday when Pulitzer Prize winning whatever she is. She's not a journalist. What even is Nicole Hannah-Jones?
She's a essayist.
Yeah, Pulitzer Prize winning essayist Nicole Hannah-Jones tweeted that her take on the Ukraine war, her takeaway from everything that she's been seeing over the last several days is that Europe is not actually a continent, and to say that it is a racist construct. She says Europe is, by definition, not a continent, in fact.
Yes, I saw that, yeah.
So, and then a bunch of people came in and asked her what exactly her definition of a continent is, and she didn't really have anything, which, of course, the definition of the continent...
Right.
A definition of the continent is the things that we call continents. They're just North America, South America, Europe, Asia, Africa, Antarctica, Australia. That's like that's the definition. There's no like special rule. So, Europe...
Right, although some of the answers in the thread kind of noted geographical lines and divisions of kind of dice it up. But that reminds me completely.
Mm-hmm.
Tonight's State of the Union address, First Lady Jill Biden is set to attend Biden's State of the Union address tonight with a select group of guests, including one individual who has pushed heavily for the teaching of critical race theory in schools. Melissa Isaac, the Gizhwaasod protector of the young.
What?
Melissa Isaac, the Gizhwaasod
I don't know
protector of the young at the Michigan Department of Education's Indigenous Education Initiative, the Gizhwaasod, has a history of rejecting arguments on social media against the teaching of critical race theory. Last summer, Isaac, the founder of Saginaw Chippewa Indian Tribes Project Aware program, claimed in a few different tweets that the argument against critical race theory is a smokescreen. Let's call it for what it is. Censorship, Isaac stated. That's what we're really talking about. Censoring systemic racism, injustice, and inequality will not ungay the gay, unqueer the queen, nor will it reduce the number of black, indigenous peoples of color killed by police brutality. It will not keep my
It'd be hard to reduce that number more than it already is reduced.
It will not keep my indigenous sisters from going missing and being murdered, and it definitely won't kill the Indian to save the man. We are all still here. Dun, dun, dun. She's the Gizhwaasod, if you didn't know that, of Michigan Department of Education.
Wow.
Have you ever met a Gizhwaasod?
No, how do you even spell that?
Gizhwaasod. Gizhwaasod.
I don't
Well,
know
she's the
how
one.
to say that, but I don't really have a better guess than that. But she's actually like in charge of people's
Look, check
education
her out,
in the
Melissa
state
Isaacs.
in the state of Michigan. Wow.
Melissa Isaac. She's the Hold on.
And she's going to the State of the Union?
Yes, she's Jill Biden's. Some of the guests are virtual. I don't know if she is. She's the Gizhwaasod.
Oh yeah, this is definitely her. I found her LinkedIn.
Okay.
This doesn't say Gizhwaasod. It says doctoral candidate at Central Michigan University, wife, mother, good ancestor, Anishinaabe educator.
But you know what? That's very interesting. You ask why Biden's administration has been so woke?
Mm-hmm.
It's Dr. J.
Dr. B?
Well, Dr. J.
Dr. J. Jill. Oh.
It's Dr. J.
Yeah. Yeah, she's the one who's into woke for sure. And Kamala's into it too, because she's very like social media driven. But it's like especially incredible, like speaking of, you know, the Biden administration and their problems in the state of our union, actually, the fact that they would be focused on stuff like that in the guests, and I feel like maybe he's going to focus on stuff like that. Like, is he going to yell at us about voting rights again in the State of the Union?
Definitely. Of course.
That we've done Jim Crow.
Jim Eagle, yeah. Of course.
So it's incredible to me that with people concerned about nuclear war, foreign policy disaster in Afghanistan, foreign policy disaster in Ukraine, prices at an all-time high, more price disruptions coming, especially due to the Ukraine crisis. I mean, like, in this state of affairs right now, the fact that you would go out there and talk woke stuff and yell at us for supposedly doing Jim Crow to people, even though, like, voter ID is popular with everybody, including minorities. It just seems so incredible to me. If he goes out there and he doubles down on that message and that approach, like everything would be going great if you weren't such a bunch of bigots and we need to do more for trans people in Ukraine or whatever crazy thing he's going to come out with. How does that... I mean, I think it'll make the Democratic Party a pariah for a generation, essentially, because I mean, it's going to make Carter look ridiculous because
you mean Carter look good?
Yeah. I mean, it'll make Carter look like much better than he was, right? Because it'll make the damage that he did look like ridiculously small, I think is what I was thinking in my head. But I just the whole approach is so backwards. Like, he could save this right now if he wanted to. He could team up with Manchin. He could get, like, steel workers up there. He could, like, talk to the working people, say that he feels, like, the pain of the prices and whatever, and, like, he knows that people are concerned. Like, people elected him because they wanted normal. So if he doubles down on normal is racist and evil and does all this, then I think he's done, and I think the Democratic Party is done for a long, long time. I do, and the only thing I think where he could have a win is he could declare that he's defeated COVID.
Well, they're going to do that, and that's the whole thing with the masks. But but his base
doesn't like that either. Is the other problem? His base is upset that we're getting rid of masks. I talked to a parent today who wouldn't sign her kid up for karate class because the karate studio doesn't require masks.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
And her kid's vaccinated. So I don't know, like, what. But yeah, his base of his party doesn't want the masks to go away. They don't want your mask to go away or my mask to go away, much less their masks. And they're not ready for normal. So he can...
Do I know this person?
I don't want to give any hints. I'll tell you later.
Well, so let's use that to let's use that to move. Well, we can come back to the State of the Union if we want. I mean, but remind me to go to the masking thing in Connecticut. I don't think that Biden can win at all with the State of the Union. Much like the many of his policies, I think he's seen the iceberg 5 miles ahead and is not capable of turning the ship. He's afraid to. He's afraid to do it.
I mean, do you ever stop and I think sometimes, just wow, I cannot believe it's only been a year of this administration and how much havoc has already been wreaked on the country and on the planet. I mean, I cannot believe some days when I wake up.
Was it you who sent me that thing about the... Yeah. I mean, for him to dismantle our energy independence in the first weeks...
Our energy independence, our foreign policy, our economy...
plays directly into this.
Just our culture, our sense of national unity. If there was anything left after the Democrats behaved like insane children through the entire Trump presidency, Biden has squashed it now. I just struggle to imagine what the next 3 years will look like. We're only a quarter of the way into this madness. And it's already I'm buying I'm getting ready for nuclear radiation poisoning.
No, it's incredible. And it's to fill the void for our energy policy. We're now dependent on the Russians, which is, of course, one of the reasons why Putin's invaded.
Yeah, pour out all the vodka you want. It's not
we set the table for this invasion. This administration did. Absolutely. There's no doubt. And once they saw Afghanistan and saw how the administration wasn't chastened by Afghanistan, no, they said we did it right. Historic airlift. That's right. Yeah. A guy like Putin saying, wow, that's the standard operating procedure. And they're standing by it. Yeah. Let's roll into Ukraine. We've seen how they act, and they stand by it. Mm-hmm. So he's painted ourselves into this corner of impotency that there's no escaping from. It's remarkable. And looking at our own borders, and when he 2 years ago said, I want immigrants to surge to the borders, and now we're unable to stop anything at the borders, but instead he vilified Border Patrol agents for strapping somebody.
Right.
I mean, once again, the sign to anybody who wants to run over the border is, wow, look at these guys. Not only has he effed this thing up, but he's not contrite at all. He stands by them and just compares them to Trump in the xenophobia of Trump. Mm-hmm. It's remarkable. I mean, it's disappointing too because it's not even diabolical. It's just purely Anson, come here. Can you tell? It's... No, where is she? Where are you going? Okay.
Yeah, we'll see if you get a beer. I don't think you will.
Yeah.
Are those real beers?
Yeah.
Oh.
Why, you want?
No, I thought we were on the wagon, though.
Well, we are, but I can't... I got the rest of the supply here. These are Ukrainian.
Oh, okay. So you're supporting the Ukrainian people. I see.
Anson, pass along the message.
You're not getting one.
Kennedy
You're not getting one.
With the coconut. You're not giving it to the whoever were on the island. Is I hope it gets to my guys. Thank you, Anson. Tell Sally.
But yeah, you were saying with the Biden administration, it's not diabolical.
No, it's not when you were dealing with Bill Clinton and some of the people in the Clinton administration. Mm-hmm. You were dealing with some conniving thinkers.
Yeah, some shady characters.
Clinton himself was a thinker. Obama was a thinker. And a double speaker, bleep talker. And he was... Obama... I mean, think of the people around Clinton. Terry McAuliffe. A snake, but a smart SOB. Mm-hmm. Around Clinton. Around Barack Obama. You had... Rahm Emanuel. Running the ship. That guy he's got a brain, and it's running constantly. Mm-hmm. Who does Biden have?
Rahm Emanuel didn't spend all day retweeting Jen Rubin tweets about what a great job the Biden administration was doing. But no, this administration is solely concerned with what's going on Twitter, what people are saying about them on TikTok, and
yes.
And like we were saying yesterday, like watching reruns of The West Wing and imagining that that's their life. Like that's what they do all day.
Like, what's the next
They're
project?
100% obsessed with appearances.
I guess so. I mean, but are they? Why do they have this guy shuffling along on the south lawn or whatever for a minute and 43 seconds, walking like John Cleese? I mean, it makes no sense. Meanwhile, he's masked and outside. And now what? Suddenly today, nobody needs a mask anymore in D.C. I'm sorry. I have callers to my radio show who call in, who have read volumes on ivermectin, have read volumes about this study or that study, and the Moderna CEO and this and that, and spend all the time in the world, looking into these theories, and some of them are conspiracy theories, some of them aren't, etc. I have more trust in those callers than I do with our political establishment, and certainly our media. Completely, and the bureaucracies, the institutions. I don't. I mean, I now, when person A calls person B a conspiracy theorist or QAnon, I immediately have more credibility allowed to person B, because the people calling everybody else QAnon and conspiracy theorists have been effing malevolent liars now.
Yeah, for more than 2 years. I mean, really, for the whole Trump administration, but COVID threw things into high gear. I wonder too if he's going to bring up his vaccine mandate for businesses, the ones that the courts have thrown out, right? And what a huge deal he made of that, and said he was losing patience with us and our bad behavior and all this stuff about it, and like that initiative's just gone. They haven't brought it up again. Like, are they even going to try and defend it, or do they just know that the whole proposal is cooked and they don't care anymore?
I think that they're going to spike the football and say that because of those attempts and because the administration was laser focused and clear-eyed in their approach to COVID, that's why we were finally able to open schools. And you know what? Take the mask off, as Biden will show us tonight in some attempt to be theatrical.
I already hate this speech. It hasn't even happened yet.
No, absolutely.
Oh, but yeah, I don't. It's not that I think like it's necessarily a salvageable presidency overall. But like, I would think if I were the Biden administration, or if I were in there advising him, I would be telling them to freaking moderate, go toward the center, get some freaking coal miners at the State of the Union who like you, get some truckers who like you, get some healthcare workers, like do something to like try and go for things that promote unity. But instead you're going to bring in, after watching what happened in Virginia last year, you're going to bring in CRT people?
Right. When really he should be bringing in an injured member of law enforcement or some law enforcement hero, in at least some kind of nod, but he can't. There's a better chance of us getting, the guy that the cop shot in Kenosha than a cop.
He visited the Kenosha guy.
Right.
I mean, like, he's buddies with him now. He visited him and his family and commiserated with him, even though the whole thing was BS and he was trying to knife a cop when he got shot. It's ridiculous. The whole thing is so stupid. He can't or won't moderate because he won't, he's just acquiescing to his own, like, craziest parts of his party. So I think he's going to try and talk a bunch about Ketanji Brown Jackson. Is that her name?
Yeah, I mean, but why does he have to?
Because that's a victory.
It is? She hasn't been brought
But
through.
she will be. She was affirmed already confirmed recently for that.
Doesn't necessarily
Merrick
mean anything,
Garland's
and I
role.
know that she will be, but still, I
And
mean,
she
that's
will
is that
be.
I guess I mean, it's a victory.
It's
for
historic.
for the 40% of people or 30-something% of people that still like him. But he doesn't have to do any more tending to James Clyburn's needs. He gave Clyburn a incompetent black vice president and now a Supreme Court pick.
Right.
It seems to me it would be a waste of, thank you. Oh, that was unsolicited. Thank you.
Wasn't Anson supposed to do it?
Anson was supposed to tell Sally to do it, but I knew it.
He didn't expect it to really come. Neither of us did. So.
No, we thought that
Thank
was
you.
over. Thank you. You're a good boy. Did you go to the store and get a whole bunch more? Okay.
That was also the last one. I think you know.
Thank you.
So, the other thing I think his administration is probably thinking about, although I don't know if they'll talk about it tonight, but in search of like some victory, any victory, I think they're going to start looking at and thinking about if there's some way they can do some student loan debt relief. Because I think he's realized he's not really going to get much else through Congress.
You can't do that, Alice. Who's that going to win the election in November?
I'm not advising him to do that, but I think people are.
Well, okay, so you're assuming that he's going to continue to be stupid and pushed by wokesters.
Yeah, I haven't seen any evidence that he's pushing back on them yet. And
the move would be to do some kind of paid family leave. That would be the move.
Yeah, because there's a lot of Republicans that are on board with that. But the left doesn't generally like the types of proposals that Republicans have for that. Like Marco Rubio had a proposal that was like, when you have a kid, you can take like 12 weeks of your Social Security, but then you have to push back your retirement by 12 weeks. So it's like
It's kind of innovative.
So it's like cost neutral. And like, what do you care when you're 65 to wait 3 more months to retire?
Yeah, and really, who's retiring at 65? Those days are over.
But you know what I mean, right? Like it doesn't matter. The extra 3 months doesn't matter to you when you're retiring, but it does matter to you a lot when you have a new baby, right? So but Democrats didn't like that because they consider that a cut to Social Security.
Right.
So, you can't win them all, but they don't want to do things like that, and they don't want to work with Republicans, and I think that the voices in his own party that are talking to him right now, if he's having CRT people at the State of the Union, the type of people who have his ear are telling him that what he needs to do to get popularity, people like AOC and all her buddies are telling him that what he needs to do to win back over the American people is like student loan debt relief and things like that. So, I do think we're going to see a push for that. Didn't they extend the deadline for people having to start pay their student loans again a while ago? So that's going to come up again soon, I think. Wasn't it like in January and it was 3 more months or something?
Was it?
I think it was, because they extended the like COVID state of emergency for however much longer, right? So I think that was like a while back. I'd have to look into that. I don't have it off the top of my head, but I know that do you remember when the student loans were going to start being due again?
Yeah, and everybody raised hell.
And then he extended it further.
Let me tell you something. He does something for student loan debt relief. He's going to mobilize 70% of the country. I don't know what percent of the country goes to college. So all the people who didn't go to college then pay for the college for the people who did go to college, who all make more money than the people who didn't go to college.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Doesn't sound like equity to me. I think that's problematic in a way.
Yeah, I don't think that will be popular, but I think that there are a lot of people
by the way,
on the left who
some
believe
buses
that
are free
it's
in
popular.
Boston, Alice.
Oh, yeah, I heard.
To marginalized communities now, in the spirit of equity, the buses are free.
Yeah, our friend of the show, Mark Sardella, actually had a good article on this, because a bunch of different communities around, that are on the MBTA around Boston, near Boston, one of which we used to live in, a bunch of people that are elected officials in those communities put together a letter asking the MBTA to make their buses free too, and saying that their towns would pay some of the costs for making their buses free. Of course, they didn't, run it by their towns before they committed. I mean, I don't think it's really a commitment of funds per se, but before they went to the MBTA and said like, yeah, our taxpayers will give you money to make buses free too. So they didn't do that. But yeah, there's a bunch of them in Wakefield, Melrose, Cambridge, a bunch of those types of towns have gone to the MBTA and said stuff. I should find the article with the details on that because I didn't look into it right before this show. He sent it a little while ago. But yeah, there is a push on in Massachusetts to make public transportation much more free.
So, to Connecticut, today was the day, the great unmasking, where that you were allowed to be unmasked, but they left it up to localities.
Mm-hmm. Massachusetts, I think it was, yesterday.
So there's
Monday.
6 or 7 of the big cities. Hartford, New Haven are continue with masks, and a few others, including Hamden, Connecticut, continuing with masks. And even in some of the places like Glastonbury, where you and I have been.
Yeah.
This is a young lady who they've unmasked everybody. The governor was there, the guy who masked them all, and said it's good to see smiling faces again when he was the guy who was
covering up the smiling faces for 2 years.
But here's a 16-year-old student. This girl, everybody else there is unmasked. This is a girl, 16 years old, with a mask on.
I just want to be safe to protect my family, and, it's just like the right thing to do.
Probably sounds like a good kid.
What type of mask does she have on?
She doesn't have a
KN95 respirator or something. Yeah. So it's not.
It's the right thing
anything
to do.
Oh.
She says.
I just want to be safe to protect my family, and it's just like the right thing to do.
It's now just like the right thing to do.
Mm-hmm. Doesn't matter if it does.
So
anything.
if it's now the right thing to do, when's it not the right thing to do?
Never.
Okay, so it's always the right thing to do now.
Yeah, there's never. If you can't unmask now, you can never unmask. I don't see how you could, because all the wastewater COVID levels, everything's down, everything's done. Like, there's no, COVID's vanishing. I mean, for the psychos who test all the time, too, right? Like, the cases are going to go back up down in the American South in the summertime when it gets hot. And the people in the blue states will say that it's because they're not vaccinated enough and they don't mask enough and they're bad people and all the things, right? And then COVID will come back up here in the fall when it's cold and people go inside, and it will be not their fault. And how could this be happening to us? We're such good people. It must be all you anti-vaxxers who did this to me somehow. Like, and I don't want to believe that that's going to happen again, but I think that it is, and it depresses me to think that it is.
So listen to this. As he's greeting all the students leaving the school, Lamont sees one kid with a mask on, and this is what he says to him.
Want to wear the mask a little bit longer, stay safe?
Want to wear it a little longer to stay safe?
Mm-hmm.
So wait a second.
So you're letting them be unsafe. All the other kids.
So everybody else is unsafe? And also, is that mask making that kid safe?
No.
Want to wear it a little bit longer to stay safe? This is insanity. This is catering to a fanciful fantasy world now.
Mm-hmm.
Want to wear it a little bit longer to stay safe? Stay safe?
We've known for quite a while that masking kids en masse does not do much about COVID spread at all, especially in Omicron wild. And the vaccines for kids don't do much either. There was just a new whole study.
Right, I saw it.
And it's fascinating because, a lot of people said this at the beginning when the child vaccines came out. A lot of very mainstream sources, Vinay Prasad, Tracy Hoag, like these mainstream serious doctors who are pro-vaccine, who have their COVID shots and all the stuff, right? And believe the evidence and all the things. And they were saying we don't have a lot of evidence that kids need these shots, because when they tested them, they didn't test for clinical outcomes, because the severe clinical outcomes in kids are so rare that it's very difficult to statistically determine if the vaccine does anything for them. And so now that a bunch of kids have taken the vaccine, they have a little bit more data to work with than they did in the trials. And the kid vaccines are about 12% effective at preventing COVID infection.
Right. And so now let me hear the more insidious part of this. This is Melissa Kaplan, who's in Hamden. She's the head honcho on the Board of Education, telling you why you need masks still. Listen to this.
I think we can all recognize the importance of classroom learning and can agree that learning is best in school. This was made possible through wearing masks, advocating for vaccinations and boosters whenever possible.
This is made possible through extortion.
Yeah.
This was not made possible through wearing masks.
Yeah.
It's made possible through wearing masks and advocating for vaccinations and boosters because we held a gun to your head.
Yeah, because we said we're not opening the schools unless you do this to your kid.
Right.
So,
Isn't that amazing? I mean, what a malevolence. Talk about, God. Talk about dangerous. And you talk to the people, and I'm not going to go into the Nazi thing and whatever thing, but it's the small battles. It's like, if you're not going to ever push back with the small battles, when the brown shirts are around really threatening you, what are you going to do?
well, right. I mean, the whole thing, like when you say it's extortion, that's exactly what it is. Imagine if the person who blackmailed you, like who had, really damaging information on your life or something, and then they blackmailed you and you gave them money and then they said, see, look what's been made possible by you giving me all this money. Now your life is great because I haven't revealed this damaging information. See, you paying me made that all possible. Like, no, you're a middleman to making that possible. You're messing up the process.
The other new thing I have is that they're doing, of course, all over Connecticut, Big Blue State. They did a news piece, of course, on all the liquor stores getting rid of the Russian vodka, including at Big Gary's in Colchester, where Gary Tromley owns the place. And it's very interesting because he had to put signs up on the vodka shelves saying, not Russian. Because one of the problems with Russian vodka is there's hardly any of it.
Yeah, it's like 1% of the American vodka market.
So listen to Gary Tromley, who I like.
Most people think all vodka is Russian. I mean, you come down here, what I can show you is, well, there's a Stoli. And as you can see, I have my sign up, not Russian, because everybody was getting nervous I was being Russian.
And then he moves on
Russian Standard is like the only big name one. And who buys Russian Standard vodka?
He moves on to Smirnoff, and this is why you're going to learn at the very end of the sentence why he's my favorite person in Connecticut, next to Caitlin Francis, who has a crush on me. Different thing. Gary.
Is she the one whose uncle listens?
No, that's Caitlin Birchill.
Oh, okay.
Different person who I love too, who's very good at her job. But Caitlin Francis is different thing. One of my unhealthy crushes.
Okay.
So this is Gary. So here's Gary Tromley of Big Gary's in Colchester, letting you know the truth about Smirnoff.
All these are produced in America, just about.
Oh.
Yeah, you got Smirnoff vodka, which we just found out today. I didn't know this, and I've been selling it for 30 years. It's produced in Illinois.
How great is he?
I like him.
Damn right you pronounce the S in Illinois. Damn right you do, Gary. He is my guy, and I am standing by him now and absolutely forever.
Thank you so much for listening, everybody.
What's the exhale about?
I couldn't remember what I was supposed to do next because I'm really tired. I can't believe it's only Tuesday. I've lived a year this week already, I feel like. Okay. How'd you like my new car, by the way?
The Mitsubishi Zero? I would be using that for myself.
Outlander.
I'll be using that for myself.
No, it's my car. Thank you.
Do you know what a Mitsubishi Zero is?
No.
Of course you don't, Alice, because it's a World War II plane.
See? I told you I didn't know any World War II planes.
I get all 5s in my AP test.
Yeah,
so, well,
but they didn't require. If they required you to know about World War II planes, then I would know some World War II planes. But they didn't. Anyway, we do have our new car. You can talk to us about it.
So when you went to gather your thoughts, one of the punch list items was to reassure people that we do have our new car. Is that an action item?
I'm so tired. You can talk to us on Twitter, though. That's at BurnBarrelPod or Facebook.com/BurnBarrelPodcast, BurnBarrelPodcast.com, BurnBarrelPodcast@gmail.com.